So much has happened in 1 year, from the loss of my house, my dog, my neighbours, my friends, and of course my wife.
We're now at a point, I think, where we're reflecting on the year and what's happened.
It doesn't feel like 1 year. Time's flying by.
I've got a lot of anger, deep-set anger.
Because as a community, we haven't had time to grieve.
We're feeling quite battle-weary.
There is an accumulative sense of tiredness that has really permeated across the community.
But I think there is also a steely determination now, given the battles that we've gone through over the year.
It's unprecedented, it's unquantifiable, and we're learning how to deal with it as we go along.
From that night of the fire, everything has been a learning curve.
What Grenfell has done is actually given a voice to the voiceless.
Every small incremental and attritional victory that we've claimed, we've had to work for.
This is about rebirth.
The best thing that's happened to me in this 1 year is the fact that I literally had nothing, but I was still able to get up and help. And that to me is such a beautiful thing.
Somebody knocked on our door, or banged on our door, and then when I went to the front door, just a plume of black, toxic smoke came into the flat. It was just complete darkness.
I woke up about, I think it was around 2 o'clock in the morning, and my phone was next to me. I looked at the phone and I saw a message saying the Grenfell Tower was on fire.
I look down and I see a huge amount of neighbours on the street in their pyjamas.
Me and my kids, we ran out, and I also, honestly, at that stage, I was just so in shock at what I was seeing with my own eyes. I couldn't believe it.
I look up to the right and I see Grenfell Tower on fire.
So my good friend Simon, he kept us informed about the fire. He was saying, Nick, the tower's on fire. So he was, in a panic as he's watching outside, the flames going higher and higher and wrapping around the tower.
And I'm there thinking, how come it's going up so fast?
I mean, on the night itself, my wife and my kids were in the building. I wasn't at home at the time. We lived very high up in the tower, so the 18th floor, so the assumption is, like, you're not going to make it down.
I was watching Sky News, actually, and I saw the tower, but really, I didn't really want it to sink in. There was my cousin Mary.
It was dark and the moon was bright, and it was a very unreal kind of situation.
I made my way down there to see people in the building, and to see what I could do. But it became apparent that we couldn't help them.
We couldn't do anything. And it was right in front of us, and well, it's hard to describe that feeling. I can't even really describe it. It's very difficult.
There was youngsters from the area, there was youth from the area that were fighting to get into that building, risking their own lives and taking responsibility on themselves to save people, but they couldn't.
And we had to go. We had to go out into the darkness, and they took us down the stairwell, around and around and around and around and around. But the fire officer just, kept strong and held me. All in my mind was, oh my God, I don't think I'm going to make it. And if I can't make it, I just wondered how my wife was.
But there was a lot of confusion. There was dust, debris everywhere, like the cladding and the dust in the air. You could taste it.
People were calling out, neighbours were calling out, they were crying for their life. And all we can do was reassuring, you know, everything's going to be okay, we're getting help. You know, we were crying, we were shouting. People started jumping. People started jumping. We were going, no, you lot can't keep doing this. You know, we're getting help.
And your family's still in that building and still don't know what to do, whether to come down or not. And then you're asking the fire service and they're all out of breath and they're just as bad as the people that are coming out of the tower.
And there was a guy with his phone. We're going, we can see you. He's waving his phone, letting us know he was there. And we're going, we can see you, we're getting help. All of a sudden you see smoke come up from his window and that was it, no more flashlight.
We're in a situation where we know people are on the phone to people inside the building. People inside the building are saying the helicopters are here, they're going to save us. The helicopter headed towards the window and the helicopter turns around. Now that turnaround was the most excruciating point. It was something that really, really definitely will stay with me forever, has come back, you know, into my dreams regularly.
And then we got rushed out of the tower. I think we had to wait for fire officers with riot shields because there was all debris falling from the tower. And then we went off to the triage. I thought my wife has passed.
I thought I was an actress, you know, in the film, and the people that were jumping out, you know, they're stunt people. It just wouldn't process in my head.
I don't know how long it was, but 4 fire officers were holding her. They'd cut off most of her clothes. And then they said, is this your wife? So my wife was standing, they brought her over to me, and then we got separated, and then we went off to different hospitals. And then I couldn't find her for a day. I thought she was, again, passed away, and it was just overwhelming emotions. Just to be reunited was just fantastic.
The phone calls started to arrive. Delegations was out searching the hospitals.
I've got 3 kids and a wife, obviously, and as a result of the fire, obviously, they were all hospitalised for prolonged periods.
Nobody came and helped us, nobody supported us. It was only the community that kicked in, brought us blankets, brought us drinks, brought us coffee.
That's when the community showed itself. It actually like stepped in at a time where everyone else failed.
I don't know what happened, what would have happened if the community wasn't there. They picked us up. You know, the authorities weren't around.
Anger and hurt then become focused.
Initially, it was just like a straight reaction from the heart, from the people, to just come out and do whatever you could do.
I was really, really impressed by young people, the enormous amount of energy and organisation that they had. You know, they just went into action and they stayed up and they were relentless in their strength.
Look at all these amazing donations that everyone's done here. We've got kids' clothes, we've got bedding, we've got women's clothes, we've got shoes. Everybody has been so amazing. I just couldn't believe the spirit of people down here.
And they just showed their love with, you know, they brought out everything that they could, you know, with water and food and clothes and, you know, donations and everything. It was truly how community should be.
My nephew's wife, she was like, you know, we've got a warehouse, let's get down there. So we had people dropping off donations. And at one stage, I looked back and I saw a whole human train. And I'm talking about a good 150 people that were passing all the donations on. And it was magic. It didn't matter that you was rich or you was poor or you weren't from this community. You all cared about what happened and you were all there to bring it all together.
We're filled to the brim from donations from all parts of the country, from London and beyond. The response has just been beyond any comprehension.
All these donations were sent from people to the people. And we wanted to make sure they stayed within West 10, West 11, accessible to the people who most needed them. I already had the keys for an event at Bay 56 under the Westway in Ackland Village. And then that became one of the central bases where care packages were put together and sent out. Then we also had people coming in who were very traumatized. So we then had to look at how we could help in that way, in terms of having people who could deal with those issues also. You know, put some positive energy at a time where we were living in a war zone.
We didn't have the support of the borough, but we had the support of the community, and I think that's literally what glued us all together.
There was the complete discrediting of the mythology that humans are by their very nature self-interested. But what we saw in the immediacy was people coming to try and help other people.
I met Theresa May. She invited the 16 of us to Downing Street. I was dressed in a t-shirt and shorts because I had no clothes. Yeah, so and yeah, we had a meeting. We asked her tough questions. You know, the Prime Minister said, in 3 weeks people we housed. Why people are still in hotels? This is nearly 1 year, and they're still in hotels. You know, the failings are just massive.
We stayed in a hotel 4 months, from June till September. In September, when I found out a policy that the council had that they're not allowed to keep you and your kids in a hotel for more than 6 weeks, that I took it upon myself to go down to the council and tell them about their own policy that they kept quiet from us. And when they knew that I found out, they ended up giving me a service apartment, which I'm still in up until now, 1 year later.
I need my family to be settled, yes, but eventually I will get housed. They made a promise for 3 weeks, then it turned into a year, and it's all failings over failings. However, the culture of the council should change for everyone. And people need to be treated with a little bit more respect and understanding of their situation.
Really and truthfully, if you people here would like to help us, how about the first focus is getting the people housed? Like, why don't you make noise and earn the trust of the community and get the people out of the hotels into houses or back into some way of normal living and not being in hotels?
I'm from the Walk. I've lost my home, and everyone in the Walk have lost their home. We've lost everything too. So we ended up opening up a Grenfell Walk Resident Association. I couldn't for the life of me move on without moving everybody with me. I felt like I had to contribute, and I'm still doing it up until now.
Campaigning groups came out who were finding a way to contradict the quiet passage of unseen power.
We are all collective parts, and together we're unified, and together we can fight this.
When we look at the spectacle of what happened that night and the violence of it, we have to be cognizant that it was the product of decades of silent and invisible violence.
We were so traumatized, but we knew that we had to stick together. We knew that we had to look after each other. So we made an organisation, Grenfell United. So it's just the bereaved and survivors. We've been fighting every day, from number 10 downwards.
Justice for Grenfell was formed in the few days after the fire. In the early days, we were running around doing a whole range of things, directing survivors to where they could get help, trying to get resources and tell their story, and to talk about actually the what happened before, the what happened during, and what happened after.
For 3 years, people made complaints about the conditions of the tower, and they was ignored. This is my issue. Yes. Okay, and to me, this is like social murder. Yes. Okay?
We used the billboards, which everybody remembers, mimicking the billboards in the film, the 3 billboards. 72 people had died, no arrests. How come?
We're using the power of the media to actually keep our questions alive and keep the fact that Grenfell is still a significant issue in the country, and there's still lots of unanswered questions that this community are demanding the answers to.
They were on the back of vans. The van started outside Grenfell and then drove all through the significant areas of Westminster Bridge, Parliament, all the way back round into the area. The fact that it was picked up right across the country and internationally was a demonstration of how you use popular culture to actually capture the imagination.
For me, the tools that I had was always the music. That was a far louder voice than I have on my own.
The night our eyes changed. Rooms where love was made and unmade in a flash of the night. Rooms where memories drowned in fumes of poison. Rooms where futures were planned and the imagination of children built castles in the sky.
To me, the song was a very small part of a wider movement, which of course is composed of Grenfell United, is composed of Justice for Grenfell, is composed of Humanity for Grenfell, Grenfell Action Group, Grenfell Speaks, all these different groups. That song was just a tiny piece of that puzzle.
Ghosts of Grenfell still calling for justice, not hear 'em scream.
In Ghosts in Grenfell, low-key says, don't judge our tired eyes in these trying times, because we've been breathing in cyanide the entire night.
The ghosts of Grenfell, who are us, there is an extent to which people are trapped in that moment and frozen in time. Now, I would say that we as a community are trapped in that, and what we're trying to do is work towards a way of unpacking it, of understanding it, of making sense of it, of trying to find out why it happened, and trying to find accountability for those who are to blame.
The silent marches have been very important because there's an opportunity to show the world and the government and RBKC that we're still here and we're fighting for the survivors and the bereaved families and the people who have passed in remembrance. And yeah, it's just very, very powerful.
You look at this peaceful movement and you look at the power of the numbers that turn up to these movements, and I really believe we can get justice via peace. And the more I think about that, the more it sits in, and it has that sinking feeling in my stomach, because we cannot be ignored as we grow stronger and stronger together.
I took it upon myself, you know, with the blessings of those who made it out of the tower that night, to really turn this into something powerful for our community and really turn this into a uniting force, to bring all of these powerful voices that we have in this community, just to bring them together and kind of merge us into one so we can take this journey together.
The power of silence is underestimated. I think the ability for us to come together regularly and move together as one in that silence is a very powerful energy. And I think from that energy, other things can be born out of it.
I find the silent walk is very significant. We have seen it from day one grow into hundreds, thousands, and it's growing more every month. I lost my cousin Mary Mendy and her daughter Khadija Say. So I walk with my stick. Sometimes I even have cramp in my foot, but I push myself and I say, this step is for Mary, this step is for Khadija. This step is for number one of the victims up to 70s. This is how I keep going.
It means a lot to a lot of people. I mean, there's lots of work that we're doing behind the scenes. There's a lot of policy changing that we're trying to do. And there are still youth out there that religiously will come to the silent walk, would prep the area for the silent walk, would clean after people, would organise people. But the silent walk actually brings a lot of things back to reality. And it's more of a spiritual kind of emotional time of the month for everyone there.
When confronted with something so extraordinary, so loud, so violent in the way that the fire was, rather than us propagating that same noise and that same aggression what we're doing is we're taking into ourselves that feeling and marching in a way which allows us to de-Grenfellize the people that died.
When Sophie started doing the Hearts on the Green, we thought this was a really good way of actually engaging children to start managing what they'd seen.
It started off as 24 hearts for 24 floors, but then by setting it up every day for 3 or 4 hours every day after school and in the summer holidays, it's grown to be what you can see behind, which is there's probably, I'd say, more than over 400 hearts there now. And each one of them tells a story, like each one someone has sat down here and taken the time. I was a teacher before, so it just felt like a natural thing just to set it up after school. But then the activity itself works for every age, so like the smallest children can come in, but also you can get really detailed, like adults or artists are coming in.
The heart that said community had such enormous significance for us because we knew that that's what our community needed at that particular time. And they've become enormously symbolic.
Listen! Let's have some justice for Grenfell Tower people then! Anybody who wants justice for Grenfell, one hand!
The Grenfell community were part of the carnival community. There would have been people in the tower who would normally take part in carnival and would be part of that tradition. It was a very respectful carnival, and we felt we needed to honour our community and honour them in a respectful way. We had a 3-minute silence. The whole atmosphere was a respectful one. People came to enjoy and to actually pay tribute to our community.
St Paul's is a symbolism of this country, and it was actually very emotional just to get together in somber remembrance, you know, for the people who have passed. But they did it very, very well. And we have lots of faith places around the community. That day we were just one.
If you see that day as well, there was a pledge made by all the community leaders. By your deeds you shall be known, not by your words.
St Paul's Cathedral was a nice memorial service that was done, and it did help bring a lot of attention, well, eyes nationally to the cause. A lot of bad stories were coming against Grenfell and we didn't understand why. I think St Paul's Cathedral kind of neutralised the situation. Prince William and Prince Harry were there, and again, their support has been there from earlier on, and they kind of neutralised a situation as well. So I think in that aspect it did serve a very good purpose. It brought a lot of families together afterwards where we all met up.
The one thing I am glad about, it does show me that there is solidarity. The world is with us on this.
We put a petition in to the government about having a debate, and when Stormzy called out Grenfell, you know, like, have we forgotten about Grenfell? Man, I jumped out my seat.
Let the tip of my pen show that yo Theresa May, where's that money for Grenfell? Well, you thought we just forgot about Grenfell, you criminals, and you got the truth to call us savages. You should do some jail time, you should pay some damages. We should burn your house down and see if you can manage this.
Then he tweeted out for his followers to sign the petition. We just watched hour after hour, 10,000 per hour just going up until just before midnight, 100,000 people had already signed up. It was just amazing.
When we went to see Theresa May, I asked my cousin, Damal, who is an artist, to bring along the painting he'd done of the tower. She looked like a deer caught in headlights, but the picture itself was of the tower. It was beautiful to see her. In her hands, she had Grenfell, totally to remind her every day to look upon the plight of the people. Although we had 100 questions, there was one thing we were focused on.
And that was to add panel members, or decision-making panel members, to an inquiry.
More people to answer the big questions about the why. Now, this is what happened before the fire, you know, how the RBKC and the Tenants Management Organisation, how they treated us before with contempt, and, you know, there's still a lot to fight for.
So our asks are not about us, it's about everyone. It's about the wider community, it's about for the sake of justice. And that's why it's a little bit of a bittersweet pill, is because we had to fight so much for something that you'd expect to come naturally.
I think it's very important that my wife is the 72nd person for the inquiry, because my wife never really came out of hospital. So from the tragedy of the fire, she was in 2 different hospitals and then in a care home, and she never really come out of the trauma to try and get her life back on some kind of track.
The pen portraits were an emotional time for everyone. A lot of the stories, a lot of the people were known to us personally. I think it was the second to last day of the pen portraits. 4 out of 6 flats were on my floor.
I wrote a pen portrait just to describe how she was and how vibrant and connected that she was with everybody. And it's very difficult. I had 34 years with Pili, and they were beautiful, glorious, wonderful years, filled with happiness, love and laughter. I adored her, and we shared it with everybody around us. She was unique, beautiful, exceptional person, and that it's who this tragedy has taken away. It took away our dignity and everything that we had in this world. But let me tell you, no matter what indignities my wife had to suffer, my Pili was perfect. How do you put 34 years onto a few bits of paper? Yeah, I just wanted to show everybody just what a wonderful person she was.
What the pen portraits have done is they brought the names to the numbers, and actually these were children, these were parents, these were mums, sisters, brothers and aunties and uncles. And when you're hearing people talk about their families, when you're hearing people talk about what they went through that night, I think that's quite hard, because a lot of people have kept closed up until now.
The resilience and the strength that I see is when you hear those stories, when you're with those people that you've come to know, and you know what they've lost and what they're still able to stand up and do what they're doing. It's hard to deal with, but it's also an inspiration, because it could have been any of us in those situations, and all of us have lost at least people we know, if it isn't directly family. We're dealing with a culture that's been doing what it's been doing for hundreds of years. So whatever it is we want, we're going to have to demand it, and we're going to have to put it on the table. It's not saying that, you know, there's no workable terms at all, but it's got to be on our terms.
"72 people lost their lives who are our family, our friends, and our community. We gather here today to remember them. We will now observe the period of silence, which is being respected nationwide, to remember those lives lost.
Today's the reminder of that night, and it chokes me up even just talking about it. And the truth is, today's just a day of us being together. When I say us, not just our community, us as a people, you know, coming together to make sure that we're ready for the following years to come, because I can't imagine this ending here.
Justice is a difficult word. Justice is different for every single person. My justice is that, you know, I don't want this to happen again. This can never happen again. There can be never have a tower block that goes up in flames like that and kills so many people because of negligence or indifference, you know, people not caring.
The responsibility should not be on those who have been affected by the injustice to have to fight for justice.
No one's been arrested yet. People have to be held responsible. People made decisions that were careless, that were about putting money at the heart of it rather than people.
Grenfell was avoidable. If the residents were listened to, the fire at Grenfell would never have happened.
We're not going to receive a ready-made solution that happens like that, and justice is here. It is the council that legally, under human rights law, had the duty of care to the residents in the building. The fact is, they bear responsibility in a major way, and I hope that will come out.
There's like, I don't know, 300 tower blocks in this country with the cladding on. Those people, how are those people going to sleep at night? I won't be able to sleep. You know, so Grenfell 2 is still on the cards.
We are not the same people we were on the 14th of June. We never will be.
I think that we'll learn to deal with it, but we'll never get over it.
Would people ever be able to settle down how they were? I don't know if they will.
I have a passion inside of me to get to the truth. 72 people, you know, perished, but we've got the fighting. And as we told the politicians, you may be out of a job at one day, you know, but you know, 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, we're still going to be here.
I'm coming out there strong and firm, and I'm going to be all about supporting my community. That's what I'm going to do, so that's what I'm hoping to do.
I'm just glad to see the community united, one voice and one destiny. I've never, ever, ever seen a community so resilient and beautiful and diverse as this community. I've lost 2 cousins, but I've inherited a community.
It seems incredible that a year has passed since the tragic events of June 14, 2017. We hold the loving memory of everyone we lost in our hearts, here today and always. Although it's not possible to show outsiders the Grenfell community that we were before the fire, our ongoing dignity, unity, eloquence and spirit continues to show those who didn't know us what an amazing and resilient community we are. We need to make sure that what defines our community is the change that comes after. We can't allow the lives that were lost to be simply remembered as victims of a system that treated us with indifference and contempt. We need those lost lives to act as a catalyst for change. While we continue to campaign for truth and justice, we know that while organisations need to be found guilty and people need to go to jail, that is just the beginning. By staying unified as a community and working together, we can make sure that that change comes. It is thanks to all of you here, the centres that gave us refuge in the early days, the volunteers that came for us, the mosques, the churches and the youth centres, organisations and individuals that continue to open your hearts to us 1 year on. It is because of your support that we believe that we can move from that place of darkness into a place of light. Thank you all for being here.
Bring that energy back that we first had. You understand, that energy that was born out of the ashes. You know, that phoenix that we spoke about, you know, that was rising. It's still rising.
Justice. Justice.
Justice. Justice. Justice. Justice. Justice. Justice. Justice. Justice. Justice. Justice.